All right. Well, it's 7:32, so I'm going to get started with the presentation. Today, we're talking about part two of sort of storytelling 101, just beyond the basics. There was a lot of points that Jackie and I wanted to touch on at the last presentation, but we didn't want it to be War and Peace long. So we're going to try to keep this one brief as well, between 15 and 30 minutes. But that being said, let's just sort of jump straight in. Um, so, uh, a few things with regards to the agenda for this evening. We're going to talk about supporting roles, which are extraordinarily important for any storytelling staff. Training and growth with regards to raising up those sort of individuals. Game coordination, combat, which, as everyone knows, is the thing that I'm the best at. So I'm great at telling people how a combat should be run. Player versus player scenarios, because those can be very charged. And then we're also going to talk about downtimes, which everyone knows is actually my forte. So moving into the agenda, supporting roles and utilizing your staff effectively. Um, The thing about a LARP is that I started off with smaller ones. I started with between 5 and 10 players, and I would run a scenario, and one storyteller is sufficient to maybe handle that sort of thing. But over the years, I learned that as things got popular, or as I went beyond between 5 and 10 people, it's not like tabletop or anything of that sort where a storyteller can just handle the entirety of the table. You have a lot of moving parts with regards to a LARP. And typically speaking, we would say that maybe for every 6 to 8 people, you probably want an AST nowadays to sort of assist with regards to you just can't be everywhere. You need to have them available to run side plots. You need to have them available to answer questions. You need folks to be able to move about. And when you bring on ASTs, it's not just a matter of they're not just a duplicate of you. A lot of folks have skill sets, and a lot of folks are good with regards to specific items. And so, you typically speaking, when bringing these ASTs on, we'll want to perhaps delegate a role that either they want to learn in or that they're strong in. Our staff for the Anarch Vampire game have a variety of skill sets across the board, and many of us are assigned by our head storyteller for tasks that we are specifically good at. That's something that, as a head storyteller, you need to, over time, learn to identify, because folks can handle anything from mechanics, from downtimes, from safety, specific NPCs. All of these are things that are useful to have an AST or supporting staff to assist with. Um, and the thing about that is that when you bring them on, you need to be clear with expectations for what the role is, and sort of identifying what they are to the player base. Because, for example, I joke that I'm not good at running combat. They don't look to me to run the massive, important, this is the climax of the Chronicle combat. That is not what I'm looked to. I can set up for that. I can run downtimes for that. I can even show up and play an NPC during that time period, but you don't want me in that role specifically because it's not my strong point. And that's really where these supporting roles shine, is when you learn what their strengths are and you delegate appropriately. Now, that being said, training and growth is also important with regards to your staff. Over the years, I've had any number of different staffs that have melded in different ways, and I've learned from being a head ST myself and also from being an AST various different skills just because I've shadowed other people or seen what they're strong at. The learning process with regards to ASTs and supporting staff is extraordinarily important. Um, you may never be the strongest logistician or the strongest combat or the strongest person with regards to downtimes, but you can definitely learn some lessons, and it's always fruitful because you may end up in that situation just because sometimes with regards to LARP running, sometimes stuff happens and you need to step into a role and it may not be something that you're comfortable with, usually with regards to your skill set, but that's an opportunity for growth. As long as, again, I just try to be honest with my player base when that I'm put in that sort of situation. And there are certainly types of things that are higher learning curves than others. And it really does depend on the type of LARP and also the type of system that you're running under. But these are important items to keep in mind. And there can be a frustration factor with regards to a learning curve, but at the same point in time, again, that's just something that you need to learn to manage a bit. And if you're not comfortable in that role, raise your hand, speak up, and make sure that folks know that just because, again, we're all here to have fun. We're all here to create memories and moments. So the issue with regards to that is that everyone should understand that, again, these things happen and we move on and we learn. Uh, and my best learning moments over the course of the last few years have been when I've made either mistakes or errors. You always kick yourself over it. You hate, that you had a mistake, but you learn from that and you learn how to overcome that again. Now we're going to talk about game coordination here, and this is not only during the game, but also pre-game, post-game, and mid-game as well. I say to everyone, no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. Not saying that the players are the enemy. Sometimes they are. But the thing is that you need to be prepared across all of these points, and you need to be prepared for things to happen that you didn't necessarily plan for. So before the game, prep and solid planning. Um, Solid prep leads to a smoother situation. You need to sit down with your staff, talk about the major scenes, what the goal of the major scenes are, what you predict with regards to those scenes, and you need to, as you're having this conversation before the game, you need to talk about who's doing what and where. Uh, if there's props or anything mechanically that you need to speak to what I always refer to as a logistician or your props team that help with regards to the supporting staff to, produce these things for you. Because I will tell you, as a head storyteller, all of these things that you're seeing on the screen right now, you, you might be able to do, but you can't do all of them at once. And you need to be able to delegate these to certain individuals. And when you're prepping the game, you need to know who is doing what and where and why. Um, and in addition to that, any good staff will review any concerns with regards to safety, with regards to escalation. If we're going to have a combat heavy night, there's going to be a lot of PvP. The staff should have a conversation with regards to that because tensions are going to be high, more so than normal. And maybe we need to preface that with regards to the player base and our staff so that they're aware, cognizant, and they're able to address any items that may crop up throughout the evening. Um, During the game, uh, you need to have open communication. I can't just do what I am doing and not communicate that to the other storytellers because that could put them in a place where we confuse players, that could put them in a place where they may give misinformation, that could put them in a place where uh, say in our Anarch game, Jeremy and I may both run the same scene with an NPC that evening. If our vision of what that NPC isn't congruent and we give two different descriptions to different sets of players, that's going to cause confusion. That's going to cause a little bit of chaos. And so you got to keep uh, comms live when you're doing this. And this can be chaotic at points in time, but it's great to, again, I was referring to logisticians, have a person on your staff that is handling that communication or having a means to keep that communication live. Make it post-it notes, make it cards. I keep our Discord server open between our storytelling staff, and anytime that I do a scene, I immediately put down the notes that what happened in that scene in the Discord server, not only to allow my other STs to know what is going on with our NPCs, but also so that when we review the evening, I have my notes there. They're clear, they're concise. We can recall what happened. Um, in addition, with regards to this sort of thing during game, is that sometimes you need to read the room and adjust your pacing. You might have a crazy event that's planned for that evening, and well, if everyone's having like an election or if they're having some very, interesting role play, that drama, those moments that we look for with regards to LARPing, maybe we don't interrupt it. We have to be aware and read the room, consult the rest of our staff and say, maybe we either do this later on in the night or we push it to next game. It's important that, and that's something that you learn over time. But again, that's the items that you need to pay attention to and you need to have the conversations about. You do want to watch for fatigue or safety flags throughout that, particularly if people are getting nervous or if people are upset. This is where having someone on your staff that's delegated to safety is very important. I plan on running multiple LARPs next year, and I have a safety officer each time because I need someone that I can rely on to handle those sorts of things. Should I, as the head storyteller, not be able to address those concerns immediately? And you've got a lot of things that you're juggling as a head storyteller. So having one person that can focus on that is a godsend. In addition, we got to talk about the post-game debrief here. Now, these help your team grow. They are a time where you get because, and I'm stumbling a bit here only because there are games that I ran 10 years ago that I don't remember or I don't know everything that happened in that game. Because you're not around the players all the time. Sometimes your staff aren't around the players all the time. But the thing is that you need to try to get as much information about what happened in your game as possible after the game so that you can plan appropriately for the future. Because there's a few things here. Players have expectations that their actions build upon each other. And if they did something really cool and the staff have no clue about that, and then it isn't acknowledged in future storyline, that can rub some folks the wrong way. Similarly speaking, if you forget items that are vital with regards to plot points that happen throughout the evening, and trust me, like everyone has those moments where you run like 5 or 6 scenes and you forget, oh, this person owes X a boon, or this person has diablerized Y, or something like that. These are things that need to be noted, and the staff needs to sit down and sort of just go through all of the beats of the evening that they did, talk about what they did personally, and make notes with regards to those items because that helps to keep some cohesion, that helps to keep your continuity with regards to the story, and it allows players to make their actions feel more important. So in addition to that, it's always important. a lot of our folks have multiple Discord servers. Many of our storytellers will watch them for what happened after a game to see if the players note anything. Oftentimes, we'll speak to players after the game, actively trying to get their feedback regarding items, surveying your players. I do that after most of my murder mysteries or other items because sometimes you don't know everything that happened in your own game, and the players are an excellent source of feedback for that. Um, in addition, if you have any documents that you utilize for your world guidebook, we have a guidebook for the Anarch game. I keep multiple Discord servers for some of my other games. I try to keep those updated after I get feedback from our players or from our staff, just so that the documents are live and as accurate as they possibly can be. In addition, the staff needs to be blunt and honest with each other, highlight what went well, discuss any issues that may have come up privately. In WPI, of course, if there's anything that needs to be brought to the chapter owner's attention regarding those sorts of items, that's the time period that the staff should discuss and hand it off to chapter owner. Um, and cannot emphasize enough, you need to document everything because you will forget. And that is something that you'll be like, oh, what did I name that NPC, or what did that player character do, or anything of that sort. And you really just want to be able to reference your notes and have them be as accurate as possible. Now, as I mentioned, combat is not necessarily my strong suit, but I've run enough games over the years to know a couple tips and tricks with regards to combat that works with regards to the game. There are some people that are coming to your game specifically because they want to engage in combat encounters. And then in addition to that, it can be the exciting climax of whatever storyline that you're attempting to tell, either throughout that chronicle or throughout that evening. One of the things that sucks the worst, and it will dry the life out of your game, is to have a slog of a gigantic combat that is not moving at a fun pace and that is just well, I cannot tell you the number of times that I've been in some sort of combat situation and I just point to someone next to me and I say, hey, my character is standing right here. I'm gonna go, chat with some folks because this is just gonna take forever. So trying to prepare for your combats and preparing to keep them paced well is entirely important with regards to keeping an energy that those players that like the combat and those players that are looking forward to that climax of your story can really enjoy. Um, because if it if it isn't that way, then I can assure you this is a giant pitfall that you can fall into, and I've been in many games over the years that have fallen into that pitfall. So, things that we're going to look at here with regards to other pitfalls. Um, Players disengaging, exactly what I just talked about. If you see people like walking away or people not paying attention to the scene, because if they aren't paying attention to each of the players' rounds, then they're going to ask questions like, so whose turn is it? Is it my go? What just happened? How many combat slots are open for this? It's going to draw out your combat even more if the players aren't engaged. So the thing is that you can do a number of things to adjust this by adding narrative stakes or urgency. Jeremy ran a excellent combat in our previous Anarch game where he literally just had me there only to add flavor to the scene and try to keep people engaged throughout the combat. It was a very smart move. Again, the NPC can be still entertaining even if we're getting, into slugging out things out and, sort of the dryness of numbers and comparing chops and things of that sort. Um, If combat is dragging, there's a number of different items that you can use to try to address that. You can use timers, you can pre-generate some random items. I know a lot of folks nowadays are using an app that just does the rock, paper, scissors for them. Um, I always keep a cheat sheet of my player characters that have literally round by round what I would do to try to speed things up for other people. Encouraging that amongst your player base is a great idea, and having that for your NPCs coming into the scene is also an excellent idea because that way you can speed things along and make things more fluid. Uh, Quiet players being overlooked is something that you learn more over time. Uh, but one of the great things that I've seen most of the STs that I interact with is that they will directly address if a player is sort of sitting there and not talking, asking them, what they're doing, or trying to give them some recommendations with regards to maybe this is maybe one of their first combats. They don't know what to do. Well, helping them along, it goes a long way with regards to one, making their time more enjoyable, and two, making sure that the combat is streamlined. Um, if there's no clear win or loss conditions, or this seems like some sort of deus ex machina, like the storytellers are, just sort of running through the motions of trying to progress plot with regards to a combat, that can really cause disengagement as well. In the event that there's a incongruency with regards to what your expectations on the combat are and what your players are, you really do need to clarify the out of character objectives with the player. We have in our system, if it's a particularly dangerous combat, we have a rating system that we tell players in advance that, hey, you're walking into a dangerous situation. We just want to let you know with regards to that. And that helps to clarify not only the stakes, but also, okay, is my objective to run away from this combat? Is my objective to fight this combat? Can I win in this situation? Um, Making sure to clarify those with your players can really help with regards to their connection to the game. Um, the final item is the one that I lean on probably far too much, but at the same point in time, you got to do it sometimes, and that is mediation. Uh, if the combat's too easy, maybe we just need to move things along because the player characters could be having much more fun role-playing elsewhere. If the combat is going too long, or we're coming to the end of the evening and this combat would probably go for another 2 hours or something along those lines, we're going to have to hit mediation. And this is something that you learn over time. And if you have staged the evening appropriately, you may be prepared that this will likely have to come to mediation, and you will want to think about what mediation looks like. Will the players have anyone that's captured or torpid or killed throughout the combat? If we don't have enough time to go through it, we're going to have to see what folks want as far as the storytelling stakes and how we can move forward with regards to it. Sometimes you got to do push the combat again to the next game, or sometimes you've got to run, extra innings and go later with the combat. But mediation can be an excellent tool that you can learn over the years to try to ensure that if this combat should end now or is not going to end in a timely fashion, we're going to have to negotiate with our player base on how to move forward. And that's something that ultimately you do want to try to think about how or what this combat will look like at the end of it, and that will help you to prepare for mediation if you need to do so. This is a spicy one. Player versus player combat. Uh, Again, I spoke earlier about prefacing this at the beginning of an evening if you anticipate this occurring, and you can't always anticipate it. But that being said, stakes are high, and two players are not, this isn't a player versus enemy scenario where they're fighting your, mustache twirling villain. they're fighting each other, and in a lot of instances, they both want to come out on top in the end. Uh, I personally like to, as a player, like to speak to another player before I engage in PvP because I like to ask them, where do you see this going? Where do you see this ending? Is this, consensual with regards to, I mean, do we both think either of us could die tonight? Are we both okay with regards to that outcome? You're not going to get that everywhere. So the thing is that for your storytelling staff, you need to be prepared that PvP is high stakes, it's emotional. Um, Outcomes can oftentimes be permanent and personal with regards to those characters. That character that you've played for the last couple of years is, you know, torpid and then they are ashed after the fact, which in D&D terms, I would say your character is permanently killed. Um, the stakes are much higher. And so, one, you want to have an experienced storyteller on your staff run that combat because the item is that you don't a lot of folks can get emotional and there can be a lot of feel bads if there are some mistakes made in a PvP combat. And it's not for beginners. And throughout all of my years of storytelling, I've always had someone that I can lean on with regards to they know what they're doing and they'll be able to take emotion out of it and run this thing down the middle because you at this point are a referee. Um, you do want to debrief the players after the scene, and you want to get a litmus test of if everyone's okay, because these scenes can be stressful, these scenes can be emotional, and uh, in the event that they're dead, let's talk about what happens next, or let's talk about a climactic, like what does that death scene look like, or what are the ramifications of that so that we can make the story that you told meaningful. Because again, that's the important thing that we talked about earlier. We are creating moments and memories, and that's ultimately, this is a very pivotal one and an important one, and you want to be able to underline that. Now, moving on from PvP though, from my weakest point to my strongest point, we're going to talk about downtimes and then I'm going to wrap things up here. Are they right for your game? Not every game needs downtimes. Frankly speaking, a lot of times scenes happen in between games that could probably happen at your game, or things happen in between games that could happen at the game, and they would be much more dramatic in person. But that being said, there is oftentimes busy work, there is investigation, there are all sorts of various reasons why you would want to engage in a downtime system for your game. Particularly in ongoing chronicles, although in, say, a weekend long LARP that is maybe 2 or 3 days, you oftentimes will have dinner breaks, lunch breaks, or other breaks to cut up that weekend. And downtimes might be right for that because, the players may want to have their machinations happen over the course of the between time. Uh, the most useful thing for these is so that you cut away the work that does not add to the drama and can lead to the better moments in a quicker or more expedient fashion. Um, Oftentimes, downtimes will involve mini games or other mechanics that are not normally organized in the main game system, but they may have various different mechanics that allow for it. And one of the chief reasons to do this is so that you can seed plot for your future games or for the next session, so that you can sort of guide your players in the proper direction of where you want them to go. Now, that being said, a few final takeaways past downtimes, because I could probably talk about that for almost too long. But with regards to your team, these are extremely important. Back your team. And that is if they made a mistake, if for whatever reason they forgot something, if for whatever reason they screwed up a combat, if they did something that you didn't anticipate them doing and it was a surprise to you, and Lord knows they might have ruined a plot or something along those lines, it happens and you need to be prepared for it. But that being said, you don't blame them. You don't chide them. This is a learning experience for them. You back them. You sit down with them and you say, "Hey, that wasn't exactly what I intended. Let's see how we can course correct." But that being said, you don't come down on them for it because these are the folks that are backing you and helping you, and they have your back. You need to have theirs. Um, it's not to say if a player has a gripe or grievance with regards to one of your staff that you back them 100%. You need to listen to their feedback and course correct as need be with regards to that. But that would be more something for your safety coordinator or for your chapter owner. Um, keep it fun. Like we all do this for, I keep on saying moments and memories. We all do this because we love to do this. This is a labor of love. No one's here to make money or do anything, like this isn't a power trip. Well, hopefully. So, the staff uh, meetings and also uh, engaging with your staff should be fun. Um, again, you need to prioritize keeping your players engaged. You need to prioritize pacing to make sure that they don't just like if everyone's just sitting around and doesn't know what to do, you got to have plans for how do we address that? And that's something that we can talk about in more advanced SD classes. But um, the underlining point I want, if you take away nothing else from this, I'm horrible at taking feedback. I don't like to hear my game criticized. It's awful. It sucks because you engaged in writing this and trying to make this important for folks. And to hear that someone didn't enjoy themselves or they had a criticism with regards to your game, that does suck. You need feedback. You, if you can't take it, you need to have someone on your staff that's available to take the feedback and then translate it towards you so that you can digest it because your player base is why we're doing this. This is their story. So we need to encourage them to be vocal about what they like, what they don't like, and you need to be able to roll with those punches, even if sometimes that's painful. And that's something that's extraordinarily painful for me. But, you know, again, I need it and I actively engage in it. Um, get out of your own way is something I put down here. I spoke about that with Jackie. Um, sometimes you need to let things run and watch where they're going with regards to your player base. Sometimes they're going to throw you a curveball, and maybe you need to course correct that, but maybe we need to see what story they're telling and see where that goes. Maybe that's a more advanced item, but that was something that she felt strongly about and I feel strongly about. Um, and so, with that said, though, I think that that is more or less the takeaways that we wanted to express with regards to um, sort of the second class of storytelling 101. I'll open up to questions, although I know that we've got a brief crowd here. But if anyone has any feedback or questions right now, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll close off the recording and we'll move on. Or actually, if anyone has any tips or anything that I didn't cover, that would be excellent as well. I know we've got some excellent minds in the room.
I'd say the only thing that I can really think of is that when you were talking about support staff, the one of the real important things about support staff is to shore up the parts of a game that you are not the strongest at. So if you're not the best, what was the term you used? Logistician?
Logistician.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you're not, God's gift to logic, then having somebody on staff that is will, be incredibly important. Likewise, if you're not the strongest at running combat and you know your players are going to be, wanting to have combat in the game, having somebody who understands the mechanics at work on staff is really, really good because then you have somebody that you can always turn to for that kind of stuff.
that's a really good insight, Adam. And someone like Jackie, who's on our board, is got very strong qualities, many of which I lack. And so that's why she and I work so well together with regards to these sorts of things. And identifying that and bringing those people onto your team or luring them to your team, as I often say, is an excellent idea and something that you really should do. So 100%. One that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah. A head storyteller is not necessarily the guy that can do everything, but the guy that can bring the people together that can do it.
100%. Great insight. Any other points that anyone wanted to make or cover? That being said, I'll close out the recording there, but I appreciate everyone that came out, and I think that this was just a really good, topic to cover. And if folks on our YouTube or folks in our, conventions that we run and things of that sort would like more panels like this, just let us know. We'd love to hear it. I'll likely send out a survey after we release this on our YouTube channel. So.